Bravo, bravo. Thank you to everyone who submitted a comment last time. Really great seeing your wonderful responses to last year's video. Welcome everyone to my annual top manga video. I like to shuffle these around, do different things every year. And this year we're going to be taking a look at my top 20 manga. It's going to be a bit different though, in that these 20 manga aren't actually necessarily my favorite manga of all time. You see, when I went to make this video originally, I was a bit let down that like most of my top 10 from last year was still intact. A lot of things haven't moved around a lot, and I figured, hey, if I just make another video like I did last year, I'm gonna be saying the same shit about all these series all over again. And I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to focus on a lot of the newer series that I have been reading recently. So you see all these series here? These are series I absolutely love. I talk about non-stop. They were all in or close to my top 10 last year. Fucking yeeted! See ya, guys! I love you to death, but it is time for some newcomers to shine. Along with all of these series, I will also be eliminating any series that I have not read in over 2 years. Just because, you know, with time, you might not like series as much as you used to, or you might have just, you know, forgot how much you like them, so I didn't really think it was fair to compare a lot of those to the newer ones I read. So what does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with a list that the majority of which is actually brand new to these top videos on my channel. So I think it's going to be very unpredictable. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. And remember, you can disagree with this list all you want, but it doesn't change the fact that it is the objective truth. If you're new here and you're wondering where other series are, feel free to go check my Annie list in the description. That will have all the other series that I've read. And if they're not here, it means I didn't really like them as much as these others, or I just haven't read them in a while, thus disqualifying them. And if you do get upset, please remember to leave a hateful comment. So with all that being said, let's begin. Now, the 20th spot could have gone to a lot of different things. A lot of things were fighting for it, but I decided to give the newbie here a spotlight, being Mashle, Magic and Muscle. This is the youngest series on this list, only starting earlier this year, and it's quite a hoot. This, of course, being a very shameless parody of the Harry Potter franchise, with a slight twist that our protagonist Mash, the absolute unit, doesn't have any magical abilities at all, but he is able to go toe-to-toe against his magical peers because he is absolutely ripped. This motherfucker will stomp your ass. I mean, like, it's stuff that we've all seen before. An overpowered main character, a magic school, but just seeing these two elements being thrown together, it leads to some very entertaining situations. The story so far has been really fun. A lot of the action has been like surprisingly fantastic, and despite it still being very new, it is something I look forward to every single week. I've had an absolute blast with Mashle, and I cannot recommend it enough. At 19, we have Watamote. That's right, the story of everyone's favorite sociopath. This was one that really surprised me a couple months ago when I decided to pick it back up after so many years and read through the full thing. While this series infamously started as a cringe comedy, that's what most people know it for. Of course, as I kept reading, I discovered what Watamote truly was, and that's a very fun and well done coming of age story. The situations Tomoko gets herself into are brutally embarrassing, but I think they really helped her develop into a really great character, and I think that's what really holds the series together. It's great characters. They're all super well developed. A lot of them are super funny, and seeing the friendships of all of these characters grow stronger with time has been an absolute joy to read. It's been running for a long ass time, but honestly, I'm still extremely invested and extremely excited to see where it might go next. At 18, we have My Hero Academia, one that has been on my list for quite a while now, as of course, you know, I've been reading this series for years and years at this point. But I have to say, with this particular ranking, it is definitely in the best spot it has ever been in my books. I've said what I thought of this series multiple times before. I think it's, you know, a great fun story with some great characters, some great powers, some great twists and turns, and of course, great action. Nothing extremely mind-blowing or groundbreaking, but you know, very, very solid. But this past year in particular has really been a treat for My Hero fans because Horikoshi is finally paying off things that he has been building to for years. We are now in the midst of an insane climax. The stakes have never been higher, the action has never been more brutal. Sticking with the series for so long has proved to be very rewarding, and I cannot wait for more. I might lose my other arm for this one. Kengan Ashura. This is a series I've read and reviewed recently, the tournament manga to end all tournament manga. A series that is almost non-stop battle after battle after battle, featuring some magnificent giants. Holy hell. And yeah, you're just gonna watch these dudes beat each other up for 27 volumes, and it's marvelous. A lot of these characters are really wonderful, super memorable, and the story that connects it all together is pretty fun too. But what really makes this series for me is just the visceral, brutal nature of the fights. They are so well done, so well choreographed. The art on display here is fantastic. You feel every single punch. It made the volumes fly by. I was always hungry for more, and I'm very excited to eventually check out the sequel series, Manga no Mega, which I hear is just as, if not a little bit better, than the main one. So hats off to you, Mr. Sandrovich. I'll be seeing you again shortly. At number 16, we have To Your Eternity. Now, this is a very unique and very interesting fantasy manga from the mangaka of A Silent Voice, which is another great series. I haven't read all that much of this one, only about half of what's out, but, you know, based on what I've read, it has left quite an impact on me. This is a really, really great series. It follows this immortal, shape-shifting creature who can take the form of living things, and we watch it as it goes about its life, meeting humans, learning about them, learning to exist with them, and getting caught up in some crazy conflicts as we learn more about, what this guy is. There's some really strong storytelling on display here. You get attached to the characters very quickly. Their lives and their stories are very engaging, and it has these really hard-hitting emotional moments that will really stick with you. And, for a mangaka who wasn't known for this type of stuff before, I think the fantasy elements, the action even, is done really, really well. So yeah, definitely a wonderful series. It is getting an anime next year, and you heard it from me first. This is gonna be one. You're gonna have like Jeff and all those people making videos about how like sad and emotional and how beautiful it is. Not that that's a bad thing, because it'll probably deserve all the praise, but it'll be one of those. Coming in at a very unplanned multiple of 5, you have the quintessential quintuplets, otherwise known as, say it with me, the greatest love story ever told. Negi Haruba is the man. He's the man with the plan. He took this really generic, trashy sounding concept of a guy who has to tutor 5 identical quintuplets and they all fight over him, and he made it so much fun. All of the girls here are great, have great personalities, very memorable. The nonsense they get up to with Futaro was engaging throughout the whole series. You really get hooked from chapter 1 by the mystery of who Futaro is going to marry, and the mystery is unraveled in such a way that you're really still guessing until the last minute, but when the reveal finally happens, everything just clicks together and makes sense. Obviously, not everyone will be happy with the ending, because you'll have your favorite quintuplet and your least favorite, but I really think it was just executed beautifully. Really just an absolute blast, and I would definitely recommend it. If you're sick and tired of all your generic, ecchi harem crap, this one isn't ecchi at all. It's super funny, super wholesome. Can't go wrong with it. Unless you're like a dirty Itsuki stan or something, but I don't really think those exist. At number 14, we have Tokyo Ghoul, the original series. I'm very passive-aggressively excluding talking about the sequel series at all. This is a very, very popular one, but for very good reason. Tokyo Ghoul throws you into this very ruthless world, this, this turf war between these ghouls, creatures who have to eat humans to survive, and of course you have the CCG, the commission, all set up to defeat the ghouls. A very great setup, a lot of morally gray themes, and this whole world gets turned upside down when you have our main character, Kaneki, who of course becomes half human, half ghoul, and has to learn how to coexist in both of these worlds. And man, it's so great. It's so interesting learning about this world, seeing how all the characters interact with each other, all the crazy action that goes on. Kaneki in particular, his development throughout the series is really, really fantastic. I know he's like a meme at this point, that he's like some super depressed emo teen, but he's really not. He really is a fantastic character. Along with the rest of the cast, they just make this series so engaging, and despite it mysteriously ending at 14 volumes and we never find out what happens next, I would still absolutely recommend this one. Just stay away from the anime. Holy shit. At 13, we have Happiness. This is a vampire story on acid. Yuzo Oshimi does his thing. He takes this nerdy loser kid, turns him into a bloodthirsty vampire, and we get to watch some non-stop chaos play out. A very fast-paced, very engaging story, again, like with Tokyo Ghoul, seeing how this character, evolves and develops after he's being thrown into this, insane world, how his peers react, how his family reacts, how the world reacts to him. It's all really, really fascinating stuff. And the series takes a huge turn near the halfway point. I know a lot of people don't really like where the series went in the end, but personally, I loved it. I thought it made everything super fresh. And the climax of this one is so intense. It's so exhilarating and crazy. Really some of like the creepiest shit I've ever seen in the manga. I just think this one is definitely worth your time if you are a fan of horror. At number 12, we have Mob Psycho. Now this series is unfortunately a bit overshadowed by its, masterful anime adaptation. But that's not to say that the manga is not any less amazing. It's a series that blends so many genres together well. We get some hilarious comedy, some amazing action, and some really, really solid emotional storytelling. The story of Shigeo Kageyama, his psychic powers, his friends, his allies, and all the people who want to control him and stop him. It's so wonderful. Obviously, one's art is a bit infamous for being pretty jank compared to most professional mangaka, but when he snaps, he's actually capable of producing some pretty, great art. And I think the more crude style does add a lot of charm to the series, especially in the funny moments. And overall, I just think Mob Psycho is a really, really solid story. I also really hope they get around to animating the final arcs someday, because those are definitely some of the best parts of the series. At number 11, closing off the first half, we of course have the absolute beast, Record of Ragnarok. So, I already talked about Kengan Ashura, this massive non-stop tournament. Imagine that, but, with even more juice. And, throw in some, supernatural god powers as well. This series sees humans and gods face off in the Record of Ragnarok, this giant competition of one-on-one fights. Humanity's strongest heroes, people like Kojiro Sasaki, going up against famous gods, the ones you all know and love, Zeus, Poseidon. I really hope Jesus shows up at one point. I don't know which side he would fight for, but I really, really hope he ends up being the final boss or some shit. But anyway, this series is absolutely exhilarating. That's the only word I can really use to describe it. It has not been going for very long. It's still very short, and we've only gotten a handful of battles, but oh my god, are they some of the best action scenes I've ever seen in a manga. The takes on these characters are so inventive and interesting. Their powers are incredibly presented. The arenas even, they're so good. There's so much impact to these fights. The artwork is off the rails, and it's so exciting because of just how unpredictable it is. The humans are all decked out with these, Valkyrie weapons, which make them, a force to be reckoned with the gods. They also set you up to want to root for the humans, but sometimes they'll throw curveballs your way, and the human fighter will be a magnificent piece of shit and the god fighter is a pretty good guy. So it really plays around with your expectations, and it's so fantastic. They threw a few new twists in the series recently that just make it even more interesting. I would absolutely recommend this to action manga fans, even fans of Greek and Norse mythology in general, just to see this crazy take on all of these figures. There's no English release. I really hope we get one at some point, because it is definitely going to be one you'll want to own. Starting off the top 10, in the highest position it has ever been, Attack on Titan. Yeah, this is the shit. Attack on Titan has had the most magnificent increase in quality I have ever seen. It was good at the start, don't get me wrong, but over time, every single flaw this series had just got completely washed away. As the crazy inner workings of this plot became revealed, as some of the characters developed further and further, and as Isayama's art, which was, pretty whack at first, evolved into being absolutely breathtaking. This is a series I have been following for 6 years now. It's finally about to end, and I could not be happier with where it ended up. Isayama just built such a ruthless world where that characters you love could die at any moment, and there's just so many mysteries that need to be solved, so many secrets to unravel. I think anime onlys, assuming season 4, lives up to the previous ones, I think they have a lot to look forward to. I certainly do as well. And with only a few chapters left, I'm super excited to see the finale. And here's hoping it caps off this series that is extremely close in my eyes to a masterpiece. At number 9, we have Astra Lost in Space. This is, of course, a series that I read last year. I was instantly hooked, instantly in love with it. I was really, like, obsessed with this series for a good long while. It's very short, only being 5 volumes, but it leaves such an impact on you. This very hopeful story about, you know, a group of kids, of course, lost in space, needing to jump from planet to planet to find their way home. It's a very simple sci-fi premise, but the world they built up, oh my god, it has no right being this good in a 5-volume series. The lore is so fascinating. There's a lot of stuff I've never really seen done or explored before. The characters are really memorable. They have a lot of personality. Even, you know, with the brief time you spend with them, you feel like you've known them for a lot longer. And just the worlds they explore are so creative. The little conflicts that come up here or there are really, really exciting to see play out. And I was really just on the edge of my seat reading the final volume. It was really, really well done. The anime, too. The anime is also a really great adaptation. So yeah, definitely one I don't think it's talked about near enough, and I would really, really urge fans of sci-fi to check this one out. At number 8, Shuzo Oshimi returns. Yes, Les Fleurs du Mal. This series has not left my mind since I originally, you know, read the whole thing in a day. It is such an insane and wild ride through this the kid's life. You know, it starts off very simple. He likes this girl. He steals her gym clothes. Like a fucking creep. But then once he meets Nakamura, things take such a wild turn. It's really just this insane descent into madness, and then seeing this guy try to climb out of it is really, really engaging. All the psychological elements work super well. Things end up feeling very meaningful near the end. And yeah, I just don't know what it is about it, but there's something that like makes me always feel drawn to this one. I've already reread it a few times. I'm definitely going to do it more in the future. I just think there's something really, really special about it. At number 7, oh boy, we're getting into the big ones here. Motherfucking Chainsaw Man. Now, I'll admit, I'm not a fan of Fire Punch. A lot of you people know that. A lot of people were really angry that I didn't like Fire Punch. But that's okay, because we can all agree that Chainsaw Man is like the best shit ever. The story of Denji, who absorbs his chainsaw dog, becomes Chainsaw Man, and then becomes a demon slayer. Like, what else is there? He rides sharks into tornadoes. He goes on dates with pretty ladies. It's so wild and crazy, and it really, really funny. I think in a way Fire Punch was trying to be, but it didn't really work for me. I think the story can surprisingly be really, really engaging. It doesn't take itself super seriously, and it can be absolutely bonkers. But in the recent chapters, I find myself getting really, really emotional and really worried for some of these characters, because the world they live in is absolutely ruthless and brutal. Fujimoto's art is so cinematic and so fluid. It really, really shines here. It makes it a very quick read, but a really, really unforgettable one. And I absolutely cannot wait to see where this series is going. First volume comes out in English in a few weeks. There's been rumors about it getting an anime. So excited. Chainsaw Man is... Speaking of rising stars, next up we have the ever-wholesome Spy Family. The story of Lloyd Forger, of course a spy who was to start a family to complete his mission. He marries Yor, who happens to be an assassin. They adopt Anya, who happens to be a telepath. They get a big floofer named Bond, who is absolutely perfect. Anya goes to school, she makes friends, she makes enemies. Lloyd and Yor carry out missions, and it is all absolute perfection. This is one of the freshest and entertaining series I have read in a very long time, blending its elements of action and comedy like superbly. The story still manages to be very suspenseful despite its lighthearted and wholesome tone, and the characters really just steal the show, especially Anya. Her shenanigans at school with the little shit Damien really make up some of the best moments of this series, and it's still so new. It's still so there's still so much more to go. I absolutely cannot wait. It's proving to be a massive hit. Definitely going to get an anime. Definitely going to get even bigger. Highly recommend you check it out. It's awesome. Ooh, top 5. Here we go. Oh shit. The greatest homoerotic love story ever told. Haikyuu. I was never a fan of sports. I'm still not a fan of sports. So you know, I held off on this one for a very long time. But you know, with it ending this year, I finally decided to check it out. And man, did it not only exceed my expectations, but it really became one of my favorite manga ever. Hinata's journey from, you know, being awful at volleyball to being where he is at the end of the series. His rivalry with Kageyama, his camaraderie with his teammates, the lengths they go to improve their skills, the intense matches, the super unpredictable outcomes. It is all so expertly well done. Furu Date is not just great at doing sports manga, he's great at doing manga in general. I felt that when Haikyuu was not in its exhilarating volleyball matches and spending time with the characters, that's when he really got to shine as a writer, and I think it just absolutely deserves all the praise it gets, all the crazy fans who are absolutely insane. I see like something Haikyuu related trending on Twitter every week for no reason, just because of how passionate people are about it, and it's for very good reason, because it really is that good. I would definitely recommend this to everyone, not just sports fans. It's a really, really special series, and I'm glad it's so popular. Now, this next one might be a bit controversial, because, you know, most people think it's terrible. But at number 4, we have Vagabond, a fictional telling of the story of the historical figure Hiro Mashima, who devotes his life to the way of the sword, decides to, you know, just wander around and beat people up. Is that really what the premise of this is? For something that sounds so basic on paper, it's pretty fucking amazing. I've read 15 volumes of this, so you know, I'm not even halfway done, but with it being placed this high, I think that should tell you just how much I love this. Musashi's motivations are simple, but he's such a fascinating character with how he goes about living his life. The interactions he has with other people, with other fighters who he wants to defeat. There's something really mesmerizing about it. But of course there's more characters. You have Mudahachi, who is, of course, he used to be Musashi's friend. He's really jealous of him. He wants to, you know, get stronger, but you know, he of course kind of sucks. You have Kojiro Sasaki, who is the last thing I read in Vagabond was this guy's like origin story. Holy shit, that was by far the best part of the series, and I'm so excited to see where this guy goes. Obviously, I know the ending to his story by reading the Record of Ragnarok, but the beginnings were quite monumental. And of course, it would be a crime to discuss Vagabond without talking about the gorgeous artwork on display. Tatehiko Inoue probably has the most detailed and gorgeous manga art I've ever seen. A very realistic style for a very realistic manga, but it is absolutely gorgeous on every level. And it really elevates some of, you know, scenes that might just sound basic on paper, like just the normal, you know, sword fights people get on with. It's just such a magnificent work of art. It took me a very long time to read it. It was always on my radar, but now that I'm finally here, I'm very happy to say that it has lived up to the hype, and I absolutely cannot wait to get a hold of more. The one thing, though, that Vagabond lacks is sex appeal. Musashi, he's not a very sexy guy, right? Sugimoto, on the other hand. Oh, goddamn. Golden Kamuy comes in at number 3. Surprise, bitches. I have been hard at work reading Golden Kamuy, and a goddamn holy shit. This series has it all. It has absolutely everything I could ever want. It has a great, fully realized historical setting, which is something, you know, of course, a lot of my favorite manga have in common. It has this very engaging, adventurous story. Essentially, this massive treasure hunt to find a hoard of gold. And the characters are just so wild. All the people who want to get a hold of this gold. Of course, Sugimoto and his squad, Serpa, Shiraishi. They're all so much fun. All the other characters, you know, Surumi, Ogata, all of their struggles with each other, all of the conflicts. The action is so wild, not only always having to deal with other humans, but, you know, often the very ruthless wildlife of Hokkaido, and just seeing how they all go about, you know, finding these tattoos with the map to the treasure, all the twists and turns it throws your way, all of, you know, the side detours they're forced to go on. It's all so much fun. But it's not always crazy, you know, it takes some breaks sometimes, throws around some jokes which never interfere with, you know, the severity of the actual, you know, story going on. And they also take the time to cook some meals, and goddamn, this might be one of my favorite parts about the series. How do you make cooking so interesting? This isn't a cooking manga. Why am I so invested in them, like, cutting up squirrels? And they make a poop joke, like, every time they eat. But it always makes me laugh. How's this even possible? I'll tell you why. Because it's a Chad story. It's a Chad story for Chads. Golden Kamuy, everyone. Check it out. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I still have a long way to go before I'm caught up. So you know, keep doing your shit, Noda, because I am absolutely here for it. And number 2 is Bleach. Blade of the Immortal is another historical series. That's 3 in a row. I wonder if I like that type of setting. Of course, follows the immortal, much more literal than Sugimoto, samurai Manji. This absolute embodiment of badassery. This guy makes Doug Walker look like an absolute virgin, and that's really hard to do. He's going around minding his own business, then this bitch shows up. She's like, hey, this evil sword school just killed my family. He's like, alright, I guess we're gonna go take out the evil sword school. And, you know, it's just unbelievably good. I think it's very similar to Vagabond in that, you know, so much of what makes it amazing are the characters and the, you know, the fighting, all the dialogue and, you know, the stuff going through these people's heads. But what makes Blade of the Immortal really, really stand out for me is its story. Because, you know, it starts very simple with, you know, Manji and Rin trying to find a Natsu of the Itoryu and take them down. But it gets so much more complicated than that when people start to learn about Manji's immortality. We delve real deep into that, you know, one supernatural element of the series, and it's so interesting, so well done. Of course, the art is beautiful, very rough, very sketchy on purpose, and it leads to probably my favorite fight scenes in all of manga. The choreography is unbelievably good. While this series is still grounded in reality, they do, you know, get a bit over the top. Manji can be more reckless because he's immortal. Some people in the series are just straight up insane, and the ways they fight is so creative. Oh man, my mouth's getting dry. We've been at this for a while. Blade of the Immortal, guys. It's so good, man. I love this one so much. So what's number one then? You know, if you only watch my videos, you might not really have a clue. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably know exactly what it is. And it might be a bit controversial. Not because the series isn't wildly acclaimed, because, you know, it is. But it's not really one that you often see top these lists. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think this has, you know, a better crafted narrative than something like Blade of the Immortal, better characters than Vagabond. But at the end of the day, this list does reflect my personal tastes. And when I really think about it, I have not had this much fun reading a manga in what seems like forever. And I have a lot of fun reading manga, so you know, that's saying a lot. It is, of course, the absolute peak of this medium. Plus-sized elf. Oh, I don't know how they do it, man. I really don't know how something this good can actually exist. Just the content. Kaguya-sama Love is War. I love this series. I love this series more than I love myself. This first came onto my radar early last year when the anime first aired, and I almost fell in love instantly with, you know, its very infectious characters, its hilarious concept, and very well executed jokes. But it was really when I checked out the manga that my opinion on the series went from being very good to, you know, my favorite. It's just really the story that Akasaka created here. Could have just been a string of gags going on forever. They could have all been funny, they could have all been great. But delving into the psyche of these characters more, all of the conflicts they get up to, it's just so much goddamn fun. And just the amount of care he puts into everything. You know, like, yeah, it's a comedy series, it's meant to make you laugh, but the connections you make with the characters, the amazing payoffs we get later down the road, really just make this a super special series. Again, I'm not going to say this is technically as good as Vagabond or anything like that. And I understand it's a comedy, and the comedy might not vibe with some people. Some people might hate this series because they don't like the comedy, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, on every single level, I absolutely adore this. And I really urge people to check it out in the hopes that they might like it as much as I do. I look forward to it every week. Every single chapter is absolute fire. Akasaka truly sits on the throne of Hades, writing these every week. Third degree burns on his hands, but you know, he does it anyway because he's such a king. Every week, banger after banger, best shit ever. Thank you all so much for watching my top 20 manga of 2020. Oh boy. Jesus, how long is this? I have no idea. I really went on for long with some of these. But there you have it. That's my new updated list, of course, excluding a lot of things, but don't worry, next time I make a list, everything will be reincorporated back in. It'll be a huge blowout. But for right now, here's just a glimpse at a lot of the series I'm reading right now, the stuff I really love right now in this moment, not of all time. Feel free to leave your thoughts on this list in the comments below, as well as drop some of your favorite manga. Everyone is welcome here, even if you're wrong. You know, if you think Bleach is top 5 of all time, I respect you. I might want to like book you an appointment to a psychiatrist, but you know, you're still welcome here. So with that, I'm going to go pass out and take a nap, drink some water, because goddamn my mouth is dry, and I will see you all in the next video.